strictly those of the host or guests and do not necessarily reflect the views and ideas held by the Voice America Talk Radio Network, its staff, and management.
Welcome to Finding Certainty with your host and U.S. Army veteran, Patrick Lang. Over the next hour, you'll learn from Patrick and his expert guests how to attract more certainty into your business and your life. Now, here is your host, Patrick Lang.
Welcome back, everyone, to our next episode of Finding Certainty. I'm your host, Patrick Lang, and I'm very pleased to have with us my very special guest today, Mr. Vali Aldea. You're in for a real treat today. You're in for a real treat today, since Vali and his company, Great Admin, are offering a service that can absolutely change your life if you let it. So Vali, I'm excited for our listeners to hear from you. Thanks for being with me today.
Thank you so much for having me today, Patrick.
And it's truly our pleasure. So I always like to start out with a little bit of bio about our guest and share with you a couple of the reasons why I've invited them to be on our show. Vali's got a great story. I mean, he started in business when he was 14 years old. He tried a number of things that of getting his feet wet and had a couple of failures, as we all do. And then he started his company now, Great Admin, when he was 16 years old. He's 26 now, so he's been in business 10 years, but he started when most of us were still figuring out how to take care of our acne. And so basically, they've built this company over the last 10 years. It's a virtual assistant firm that has customers all over the world now. And they've dealt with hundreds of clients over the years. They're a global company now with team members in multiple countries. And yet they're still small enough that Vali is very hands-on. You can call him, you can connect with him day or night, it seems, almost 24/7. But you've built a pretty amazing company here, Vali. And I guess the first question I always have is, what's still on your goal list? Or in other words, what do you want to do next?
Well, obviously, we want to continue to grow, and do better and better every day. So we have clients all over the world except one place, which is Antarctica. So if anyone can refer us to any client in there, we will do the work for free. It's just so we can cross it off the list.
So you're literally on all 6 continents other than Antarctica. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Congratulations. I know we're going to talk a little bit about how you got started and what you do exactly, of course, but that's quite an accomplishment. I don't know how many of our guests or how many people can actually say they have clients on all 6 continents. So it's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. It is an accomplishment for me and for my team. And I want to thank my team, with this occasion. So, yeah.
Yeah, you must be proud. So I love your story. 16 years old, you didn't know really anything. You built this thing from scratch. And what you offer is solving an enormous problem for people. I mean, it's so important, so valuable. We just had to have you on the show. So thanks for being here. But as I look at your business and just you as a person, as we've gotten to know each other, as I've used your service and so forth, of everything you're doing, what gets you most excited? What gets you up in the morning?
Well, so 10 years ago, I was excited to get my second client, and now I'm very excited to get 10,000 more clients in 2023, and then get 100,000 more clients in 2024. So I look forward to trying to help as many small businesses as possible, as more and more people are beginning to understand the power of a virtual assistant. They understand the power of delegation, and I'm super excited to be in a time where I can easily connect with anyone all over the world.
Yeah, well, the internet has really changed how connected we are with each other, right? I mean, you're in Romania, I'm in Nevada, Las Vegas, and we're talking over Zoom here. I mean, who could have even imagined that even 10 years ago, right? It's incredible.
It's amazing.
As for all of you listeners out there, if you understand the power of a virtual assistant, and once you start using them, and Vali's going to share some examples today, but once you start to understand the help they can give you and the headaches they can take off your back and so forth, you just cannot even imagine life without one, especially as they get more and more involved in the key areas of your life and of your business. So, the problem is that we're busy, right? We're spread too thin. I mean, we have too much on our plates. We're wearing multiple hats, juggling multiple balls, and it's a real drain on our lives. I mean, there's many business owners who went into business with this passion, this love of what they do, and then they get inundated with the grind, right? I mean, dealing with the emails and the social media and the posts and the finances and all these things that kind of suck the life out of us, right? They really, I talk to a lot of business owners and a lot of entrepreneurs who just aren't happy and they're just not enjoying their business anymore. And it's not because they don't enjoy the business itself. They don't enjoy the administrative side of the business, right? The time suck, right? So, just for you, Vali, what do you see as the number one reason companies hire you guys? Well, maybe let's say the top two reasons.
The top reason. Well, the very first one that I hear my clients complain a lot about, bring it up during the meetings, is that they just need the time with their families. Many of them are coming from, a job, and they turn into a business, and they turn into a full-time business, their side hustle, what was at one point. And they started to working so hard on their business that they just didn't have that much time with their family anymore. Right. So they just want that time back. And the second thing is they want to grow the business, but they are stuck in a kind of rat race, I would say, of administrative work. They wake up, they do the emails, they do some social media, and before they know, the day is gone, and they didn't get to the point where they implemented those strategies that they've been thinking of.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. I deal with that on a daily basis, and until I met you, I was doing a lot more of it, right? And I just feel like I wanted to make sure the audience understands that you can get a lease back on your life, right? You can free up so much time with Vali's service. There's other companies, obviously, that do what he does. I just know that he's for real. There are some shysters out there. There's a lot of different people offering this that you just don't get the value. But I wanted to have you on because I know that what you do works, and I know you take really good care of your clients. But those two priorities are top of, I think, most of our lists, right? We want to be able to focus on our loved ones, our relationships, and we want to be able to focus on our priorities. Now, those priorities are different for every person, but for most of us as business owners, we want to grow our business. We want to be able to get out and promote it more. We want to be able to network more. We want to be able to make more sales calls or whatever is going to bring more income in, right? And so that's really, I'm not surprised to hear you say those are the top two. But in our business at Certainty Management, we do cost reduction. And one of the services we provide helps companies lower their office automation contract costs. These are their printers, copiers, and scanners. And we might spend 6 months on a contract and save a company $500,000, right? But the number one thing we hear from them is how much time we save them. I mean, it's like the money's nice, but the time, we save them hundreds of hours, and they just rave about that, and and so forth. So I think besides the time and the more time with relationships and so forth, you must be relieving a lot of stress and overwhelm that people are dealing with, right? Which has health impact, it has quality of life results, et cetera, et cetera. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, I can say it's safe to say that I help people live longer at the end of the day.
You're saving lives, Vali. That's awesome. So, most of us want to grow. We'd love to be able to hire more help, administrative help and employees and so forth. But a lot of the time it just comes down to budget, right? We just don't have the budget. We maybe go get an investor. We may go into debt. We can sell our children. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. But sometimes we might feel like we want to, but don't do that. But sometimes it's very common that we know we need help. But where do we start? Especially when we're maybe a startup or a smaller business and we're on a limited budget. One of the options is cutting costs. That's what we do here at Certainty Management. We help you reduce your costs in a number of different ways with low cost benefits, with different cost reduction approaches. But really, if you look at your business, the three biggest costs for most businesses is their taxes, of course, their marketing and advertising cost, and their payroll. And that's where you come in, right? You can help, instead of having to go out and hire a full-time person or an office manager or something, they can give that to you and you can do it for them for a fraction of the price, which is really the best of both worlds, right? It meets what the customers need, gives you business, and yet they can do it for much less expensively, much lower costs than they would have to on their own. So is that what you find people are coming to you for not just for the time savings, but also for the cost savings? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, many of our clients are starting to understand that they don't need a full-time employee in the office, spending all those employment benefits that cost a lot. And they just can hire someone remotely, across the world to just do the work, at a fraction of the cost.
Yeah. Well, when you're looking at hiring somebody, it's not just the hourly wage or the salary, it's all the benefits, right? It's the taxes. It's just like you said, these additional employment costs that you don't have to pay for when you just hire a virtual assistant. And, and we all know this, guys, that delegation is hard for many of us. It's hard to give up control. It's hard to feel like we're not overseeing things or managing things. But we don't have to do everything ourselves. I mean, we can outsource things. That's why we hire an accountant to do our taxes and a bookkeeper to do our books and, a lawyer to do our legal work and maybe a digital marketing expert to help with our advertising. We hire professionals all the time. That's why I didn't finish my own basement, didn't put in my own sprinkler system. I hired somebody who was better at it than me at the time and could do it faster, right? And so I want to talk about your company in detail, but while we're still in this first segment, let's go back and talk a little bit about your backstory, because I think it's really interesting. You live in Bucharest, Romania, right?
Yep.
Beautiful city. I've heard. I've been all over Europe, but I have not been to Eastern Europe yet. So I really want to go see Bucharest and Prague and some of these places that are just incredible. I mean, you live where people go on vacation, right?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how you got started. I know you started the company with your brother Christian, but tell us the story if you wouldn't mind.
Absolutely. I love this story. I mean, it's my favorite story. I could talk days about this, but obviously I will stop at like 1 minute. So we started in 2012, just me and my brother. We were actually just freelancing, we just found a way to make some money online. We don't come from a rich family, so any penny would really help, especially as we were in high school. Actually, I think we were just starting high school. So we found this project of like $50, and it was just life-changing. We realized that we can make money online, which was huge for us, showing our parents that we actually made some money on our own, not leaving the house. That was as shocking for them as it was for us. And we went ahead and got more projects. And at one point, I remember we either had to say no to a client, which was also a friend of ours, as we were getting very close to them, or we had to bring someone in the team. And I remember it has been a nightmare finding people because they just didn't share the same values and work ethics as me and my brother, and they were not, results oriented. They were not value oriented. So coming across amazing people is really hard. That's why we don't have hundreds of people in the team, and the ones that we have are truly amazing. And 10 years later, I can say I love every one of my teammates, and we survived this pandemic together, which is a an even bigger accomplishment, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we can definitely relate. You know, any small business listening to this call, especially going through COVID, we really feel like we're in it together, right? And in a very real sense, I think we've become more of a global family, right? We have this, you know, the borders have kind of diminished a little bit, and we really felt like we were in it together, right? And so I love your story. I mean, it wasn't your first project, just helping somebody organize their folders on their computer and something like
Yeah,
that.
I mean, it was so easy, and I thought it was a scam actually because it was too good to be true, you know, that kind of scenario. But I still did it, you know. I took the chance, and it just I think when you get a little bit of hope, it makes the biggest difference in the world. Like you have the hope that you can find another project, and
Right.
that's what we did.
Right. I owned a company years ago that was helped startups find capital. And when I got that first deposit in my bank, it was real money and it didn't go away. I thought, oh my gosh, this is real. And just went on from there. So I think you make a good point here that we should mention before we go to break. And that is that you don't have to know everything to get started. I mean, you didn't have all your ducks in a row. You know, the best way to learn is to do. Right? Tell us about the next client you had, the one with 1,000 products. You alluded to having to hire a friend, but tell us just a little bit more detail about that story because I think it's a great example.
Yeah, so in the very beginning, we had a client that he was assigning us a project where we had to like load his e-commerce store with products, with furniture products. And at one point, he just wanted like 1,000 products in the next 2 weeks. And I told him, yes, sure, we can do that. And, you know, I said yes because I wanted to put myself in a position where I have to think outside the box, you know, find a solution on how to get this done, you know. And I just started calling my friends, you know, hey, can you do this? I can pay you this much, you know, you can work from home. And they were super excited, and they were making money. I was making money with my brother, and everybody was happy. Even a client who got the project done in 2 weeks, you know, 1,000 products. That was not easy, but we worked back to back, you know, and we did it. It was
Right.
the most amazing thing.
That's fantastic. And that really cemented for you that, man, we have a real business here, right? We can really do this. We can
Yeah.
serve, even if when it's something that's new. I mean, and you said you created this kind of an SOP, right? Standard operating procedure for how you would work with a client and how you would onboard new employees and how you would train them. So you started creating this cookie cutter process. So the quality control continued to progress, right? And you know, you and I have talked a lot about that, but I mean, we have to step out into the dark every day as entrepreneurs. And my wife kids about her YouTube university, right? But I mean, that's how we learn things, right? You don't have to go to college to gain that experience. If you're trying to learn how to load products for an e-commerce site and you've never done it before, you go to YouTube and somebody will teach you how to do it. It's amazing.
Absolutely. That's actually the exact same thing that we did. You know, we had to look some, you know, there's someone that did it before you know, and you can just learn from them. You don't have to have everything figured out. Just start.
Right. That's awesome. So my son Anderson, you know, he's a consummate mechanic. He could change the transmission on a car himself if he had the tools, and he learned it all on YouTube. I mean, it's incredible. It absolutely blows my mind. So we're coming up on our break here. Let's go ahead and go to break, and then we're going to come back and talk a little bit about some of your mentors, if you had them. Did you have a support network? Who supports you now? And then we'll get into how the business works. But we've been talking with Vali Aldea. And it's an amazing story of how he started when he was 16 years old, started his company, Great Admin. They now provide virtual assistants to clients all over the world. When we get back, we'll be talking, as I said, a little bit about his mentors, about more of his story, and how his company works, what he does for his clients. So you're not going to want to miss this next segment. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
All right, good job, guys. All clear. Back in about 2.
Thanks, man.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll jump into that part when we get back, Vali. And we're still recording video. So anything else you want to add to the listening audience?
No, I mean, it's amazing. It's such an opportunity to be here, and I want to take every minute of this and try to provide as much value to our audience as possible. I wish we had more, but I will try to bring as much as possible in this 1 hour that we have together. And I will try to give some kind of action steps that they can take on their own. Like some people, I'm imagining they will listen to this and they want to start their business,
Right.
or someone are just beginning, with their business.
Right.
And sometimes you are lost. There are so many little details that you have to go through, and it doesn't have to be this complicated. I would like to provide some advice later on.
Right. That's good. This will give you a chance to do a shout out to your team and your wife. When we talk about your mentors, you can talk about how you didn't have a lot of mentors and
Yeah,
had more naysayers and friends, right? But
absolutely.
and then we'll jump over that real quick. I loved your comment about your wife. You'd say, if I want to go to the moon, she'd say, okay, make sure to take your extra underwear.
Yeah, she's amazing.
That's awesome. What's your wife's name again? Alexandra? Is that right?
Alexandra. Yeah.
All right.
And she's an amazing wife and mother of our 10-month-old son.
That's great. What's your son's name?
Dominic.
Dominic.
Yeah, Dominic.
Okay, sorry to jump in. We are coming back in about 10 seconds.
Thanks, Matt.
You're listening to Finding Certainty with Patrick Lang. Have a question for Patrick or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show with Patrick.
And we're back. We're speaking with Vali Aldea, co-founder of Great Admin, about he and his team of virtual assistants are helping their clients enjoy greater time freedom. Thanks again for being with us, Vali.
Thank you, Patrick.
So we were talking before the show really about how you got started and really didn't know anything and just figured it out, realized the internet had huge potential connecting with customers. So did you have mentors who kind of coached you into it, or did you just kind of figure it out on your own?
I was lucky enough to come across some amazing people from a very early age, and I think I was like 14 or 13 years old when I came across one of my kind of mentors. His name is Jim Rohn. And I think he was the one that he was saying, I'm the summary of like 5 people that are closest to me. Right. And I tried to surround myself with those people, those amazing people, but they were nowhere to find. I had more naysayers or critics than friends. So I just figured I could surround myself with books, and I just started reading books. I surround myself with 5 amazing people. I just never knew them, So yeah, that's how things got really interesting for me. As I was reading and reading more and more, I started to have a different perspective of life. I started to understand that things are possible beyond having a minimum wage job or anything like that.
Right.
So that's what motivated me to start and grow.
Well, it's hard to find those 5 mentors or figures that will raise you up, right? And so I think there's a lot of people out there who maybe they're in a position where they say, I don't know that I have those 5. I find you can connect with some really extraordinary people, even celebrities, even billionaires, etc. And one of the best ways to do that is to serve them, find out where they're speaking and go help set up chairs or find out what they're doing and never go to them and ask for anything, but offer to serve them, and you will be amazed by the relationships you can develop. Now, what's funny is most of our family and friends are the naysayers, right? They're like, you're crazy. What are you thinking, right? But they're the same ones who, when you make your first million, they go back and they say, oh, I knew you could do it, right? But we all want to be that guy or that girl who shows up at our high school reunion in a helicopter, right? And everybody just scratches their head and says, I can't believe it, but so I know your wife, Alexandra, has been one of your biggest supporters besides your brother, Christian, of course, and your team. You said a comment about you and the moon. What was it you were saying the other day about that?
Yeah, so I think my wife is amazing. Whatever I tell her that I want to do, she's just 100% with me. If I tell her that I want to go to the moon, she will just start packing things, and make sure that we get going. We don't need a plan. We just get going and figure out the plan along the way. So I a huge thank you to my wife, my brother, and my team, and my family and naysayers. The naysayers actually motivated me to to grow,
Right.
strong.
Right. It's a really important reminder. I mean, anybody starting out is going to have them, right? Our family just knows us too well, right? They know us from when we were children and we were idiots, right? And so it's hard for them to imagine us becoming successful business people. But I'm glad you mentioned that, because that should be motivation to you. It should be motivation to either prove them wrong or be able to serve them and take care of them eventually. And just don't let it get to you. So anyway, so moving on. You got this first project. Your very, very first one was just the $50 for reorganizing folders. And you realize, wow, we can actually make money doing this. And then you got additional clients. You got this big one who was overwhelming, but you said, hey, let's just do it. You got to kind of fake it till you make it, right? And you figured it out. And then you start getting easy wins, right? And you start to gain confidence. You start to build hope in this idea that this can really work. And small wins lead to bigger wins and eventually huge wins. But it's a learning curve all along the way. So no one starts out as an expert, right? No one gets it right on the first attempt. We learn through failure. Hopefully we're failing forward. You've heard that before. I think even that's a Jim Rohn comment. He's one of my favorites, by the way. He's a great mentor to have. But as we learn more, we figure it out more and more and get better and better. And you start to learn tools. I mean, I've got things like Photoshop. I'm not a graphic designer, but I didn't want to hire someone to make my flyer. So I figured out Photoshop on YouTube again and did it myself. Because eventually you're going to get to a point where you're making enough, you're going to hire those things out. But sometimes you got to learn, do it all yourself. That's why so many self-employed business owners and entrepreneurs and stuff are wearing multiple hats. A lot of the time it's just because of budget more than anything else. But we take those baby steps like Bill Murray in that movie, What About Bob? Just baby steps, and we get there. So let's get into what great admin does. I'm doing too much of the talking here. I want to hear more from you. So if you can, just give us an overview. What is it that you do, and how is it helping your clients?
All right, so we do anything from data entry, research, customer service, email management, calendar management, bookkeeping, event management. So we pretty much do anything that can be done virtually as a back office, kind of work. We try to stay away from like this high-end design or anything like that. We try it and we realize that we have to focus on what we do best. Don't try to do everything, because that never works out well. Right. So we focus on this base skills, and service that we offer.
Right. Basically, you're offering to do the minimum wage jobs that the employer or the business owner is having to do themselves or currently doing themselves. They don't have to, but they're currently doing them. And you take those off their plate, right? So it's not rocket science. You're not doing high-end graphics work or programming or things like that. You're taking off the emails and the social media posts and the maybe posting. I know you do some bookkeeping and stuff for people, but I mean, it's the busy work, right? The stuff that just takes up so much time. This is like hiring an assistant manager to manage those things for you, but for a much smaller price. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. And these little tasks, they really add up at the end of the week. What I really recommend my anyone that listens to this is try to make a note of all the tasks that you are doing that you shouldn't be doing, and at the end of the day or at the end of the week, make a summary of how many hours a virtual assistant will have saved you that week if you wouldn't have to do them, and you will not, you can multiply that by, how many weeks are in a year, and you will see that there are so many hours that a virtual assistant can save you.
Yeah, it's a really good comment. I think many of us don't realize just how much time we're spending on those things. All we know is at the end of the day, I didn't get anything done, right? I mean, we were busy the whole time, but we didn't get the things of substance done. One of the questions I like to ask, and you and I have talked about this, Vali, is what is my worth? What is my time worth? If I could spend my time on anything. So these two questions, right? What is my self-worth or my time worth? And number two, if I could spend my time on anything, where would I be spending it? If you had an extra 15 hours a week, how would you spend them, right? Would you spend it on, I mean, you tell me, Vali, what do your customers say? What are the kind of critical projects or critical areas that your customers are telling you, we now get to spend time? You talked about relationships, but what else are they spending this extra time that you're freeing up for them on?
So they have everybody has a list of, ideas of how they can get more clients, how they can get more business, how they can grow. And that's their chance of actually going to that list. We free them time so they can focus on growth. Many of them are working in the business, and they don't realize that for many years that they have to work on the business, on how to grow the business. They are the owners, they have to grow the business. So yeah.
Right. I think a lot of the time it's also, they just want a break, right? They want a little more time on the golf course, right? Or maybe they're fishing and they're fishermen. They haven't been fishing in 6 months, and so just that extra 10 hours in a week might get them out of the office one day. And that balance in our life is so important, because otherwise we will burn out. We can't go 80-hour weeks with no breaks and no time with our family. We're either going to get sick, we're going to get divorced, we're going to get depressed. I mean, one of those three things are going to happen. And in the process, we just aren't enjoying, as I was saying, we're not enjoying the quality of life and the quality of business that we were hoping to have. So
yeah, and I remember, I had a client. I remember he had, and he's having 3 kids, and I was in a few meetings with him that he was saying, I missed this event, his son's football match, and he was getting more and more kind of a little bit of anxiety, because he felt like those moments are so unique that, you can never go back, so he started to delegate more of his work. So he became a master of delegation. He had to let his guard down, because that was holding him back. He was trying to do all of these things that he thought only he can do, but he can actually teach those to a virtual assistant, and he can never think of those anymore, or he can just review what's been done at the end of the week or at the end of the day, but that's just like 15 minutes instead of 5 hours,
Right. Well, I think of it as having an accountability partner. I call it an accountability buddy, right?
Absolutely.
I was a part of a group called Vistage for a long time, where you meet once a month with a group of other entrepreneurs or CEOs. You spend the whole day together. There's a guest speaker and so forth. But the biggest value of that group was having people who cared about your success, but were not emotionally involved in it. It's different with a spouse or a partner or something, but someone who is not emotionally involved in the business, but does care about your success and will hold you accountable. I mean, you mentioned you had a client once who said he just wanted you to remind him to buy flowers for his wife every week, right? Something like that.
Yeah. I think, and he asked for all these little things that they added up, and I've been happy to see his marriage getting so much better, because I saw him being happier on the meetings, and someone being happier, means that there are things getting better in his life.
Right. I mean, if your relationships are struggling, you never see your kids, your spouse, and that has an absolute impact on your business. It absolutely impacts your health. So Vali, you're a business owner, marriage counselor, and surgeon all at once. You're saving lives and saving marriages, right? Is that safe to say?
I'm blessed. Yeah. Yeah.
So let's get into the great admin process. What happens when a customer wants to do business with you from nuts to bolts?
Right. So we try to keep everything as easy as possible. So we start with a Zoom call or a phone call, and then we introduce the business and what we do and the services that we offer. And then we try to identify the pain points that they have, what are the most important things that we can help them with. And then we take those tasks, that come over those pain points, and we start with 4 hours for free. And anyone that listened to this, I will actually give them 8 hours for free. So you just have to mention that you listen to this, and I'll be very happy to give you 8 hours for free. And then
that's nice.
Yeah.
Did you hear that, everybody? He's going to double his normal offer for anyone who mentions finding certainty and give you basically a whole day, 8 hours of free work to try them out. That's great, Vali. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. We try to provide as much value as possible before anything else. That's why so let me just complete this process first. So we then after I learn about their business and their struggles and what they need help with, we schedule a meeting between them and the virtual assistant. And I won't be in the meeting because I don't want to make the virtual assistant nervous. I've been noticing that the virtual assistants are not themselves when I'm in the meeting. And it kind of makes sense. So like 7 years ago, I gave up being present in those meetings because I trust my teammates and I know that they'll do amazing work.
Right.
And then they get to know each other. They get to start a work relationship, and they start building trust, which trust is the most important thing. And they start with a 4-hour free trial. That's pretty much how everything is getting started.
Well, and nobody starts out with 40 hours of work, right? They all start with the trial. They all start with maybe a couple of small tasks. It's so hard for us to let go, but they'll let go of those 2 things that they hate doing. And they think, well, they can't screw it up too bad if they're checking my email for junk mail and posting my social media posts. So I think it's this process of a customer going through, and this is true with any delegation, right? Delegating to employees or delegating to a virtual assistant, we do have to go through this trust building process, and you expect that, and you're ready for it, right? You're saying, bring it on. We will earn your trust. So that's really cool. I mean, there are a lot of companies out there that do what you do. But so what sets you apart? What is it that great admin does that you feel distinguishes you from your competition?
All right. So we know that because we are offshore, we start with a little bit of disadvantage, because I know there are many businesses in the world that are doing intentional harm to other businesses, like those scammers, and there are bad people in the world. So we want to make it as easy and as safe for our clients as possible. So that's why we never charge upfront. We never send a contract, to lock you in with us or anything like that. So we don't have a minimum amount of hours. They can work with us 1 hour this week, 5 hours next week, and then no hours the following week. We don't like to push our clients to give us more work than they actually need. And then
you want them to be confident in you, because many people start scared. They're nervous. They're not sure where to go. Talking about the trust factor, right? I know you do a customer service or guarantee, right? Satisfaction guaranteed. That's a big deal.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we are very proud of. We actually never charge for work that they don't feel is valuable to them. If they find even 10 minutes of work that they say, hey, I don't think the virtual assistant provided enough value in these 10 minutes, then you don't have to pay for those. We take this very seriously. We are here to provide value, and we are here to stay. And that's actually how we grew these 10 years, by recommendations. That was our biggest, kind of marketing, I would say.
Right. That's it's so clear to me why it's working, right? Because there's no risk to the customer. There's no contract. They can start 1 week, stop the next week. There's a minimum number of hours. They don't pay for it until you do it, right? And the list just goes on.
Yeah. And we had clients, they've been with us for so long, and they they keep recommending us to other businesses, because they trust us. And I think the longest we've been working with a client is 7 years, so that's a client that really trusts us, and they've been recommending us to at least 10 or 15 businesses. And those are pretty big clients.
That's impressive, right? I mean, your customers say it better than anybody, right? When they're referring others to you, they're not going to do that if they're worried about it making them look bad. So,
yeah.
So we're going to take another quick break. I think it's a good time for us to stop our conversation just briefly. We'll be right back, but having a great chat with Vali Aldea of Great Admin. And don't go away. We'll be back in a couple more minutes and talking more about how his virtual assistant service is really blessing lives all over the world. So thanks, Vali. We'll be right back, guys.
All right, perfect, guys. All clear. Back in about 2.
You're doing great, Vali.
Thank you.
Feeling nervous at all? Or are you doing all right?
Not really nervous, but I wish more thoughts will come to mind, like I will have with the person in real life. Like
Right.
I would love to see all the people that are listening right now and looking in their eyes, and
their
explain,
eyes,
hey,
yeah.
we can do this, we can really help you. We don't charge upfront, we don't, it just makes a big difference.
Right.
And for some reason, I don't have the same ideas. So, but most of them are coming. I'm getting there.
I think you're doing great. I actually think it'd be a really good idea if you'd have to ask the customer for permission, but actually record one of your sales calls where you're really into it, and really yourself, and it's totally comfortable, and you're in that groove, and record your pitch, and then record the benefits that you're sharing with someone, because it's such a great value. I mean, I love what you guys do. And I think there are lots of businesses out there who are struggling with the overwhelm. Just their relationships are strained. Their health is struggling. They're not growing as quickly as they would like to. And, and most of it comes down to the financial stress, right? If they could grow the company more, they could make more money, which would relieve more stress, which would probably help their marriage as well. I mean, if they weren't strapped, fine. It all starts with, unfortunately, kind of all starts with money, and that trickles downhill. It just impacts so much. You might not be able to spend quite as much time with your kids, but if you're making a little more money, you can take them on nicer vacations. You can pay for them to be in sports. There's just goes full circle, and it's all founded in this this overwhelming shortage of time. Right? We all have 24 hours in the day. We have no more. And it is flying by. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I just think what you're doing is really valuable.
Sorry to jump in here, guys, but we are coming back in about 10 seconds.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Business Network. You are listening to Finding Certainty with Patrick Lang. Have a question for Patrick or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show with Patrick.
And we are back again. We're speaking with my guest, Vali Aldea, today of Great Admin. And we're talking about how he's helping his clients take back their lives. I mean, that may sound like a little bit over the top, but literally, if you are improving marriages and relationships and helping people have more quality of life, I mean, there are a lot of ramifications of that, aren't there, Vali?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I saw that times and times again. It's like a domino of good fortune. When they start working with us, I see them getting, more revenue. They are healthier, they are happier. So it's really like a domino. The more you work with a virtual assistant, the more you get.
Right. Well, and outsourcing is really a popular topic these days. I mean, we buy products from all over the world. We buy services from all over the world, right? And a lot of the time it comes down to the fact that we can still get a really great quality service or product or whatever and get it for a lower price, unless we're talking about a vehicle, maybe, and we're paying more probably to buy a Mercedes or a BMW or something like that. But we all drive Toyotas. We all drive European cars. We all purchase clothing from Italy and food and from France and all these different things. So I see personally no difference in investing in a service from a company like yours that is overseas than any of those things. And I think sometimes we forget that there's really no difference, right? There's an advantage to buying. When we buy those types of products, oftentimes we're getting a better quality product, and yet sometimes we have to pay more for those things. But with your service, we're getting a phenomenal service, a really, in many respects, a better quality of service, and yet in your case, we're paying less for it, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that for a minute. I mean, when we outsource work to great admin, I know it's saving customers money. Can you just address that a little bit? Talk a little bit about that.
So I think it's some of the products that are bought in the United States, they also come with social value. I just want to bring this up really quick.
Yeah, sure.
Just to make a quick analogy. And what we offer doesn't bring you any social value, so we don't have to put like 10 times higher the price or 100 times, like you see the case on so many brands,
Right.
like they spend a few cents building a product, like maybe $1, and then they sell it for $100 because that makes them feel better, So that kind of product comes, from offshore, and it adds a lot of, price to it. But what we do is we don't add any of that. We don't, it's just the core price that we have, so
Right.
I think that's very valuable.
Yeah, it's a totally different topic, really. I mean, we're talking about services that right now we're paying our own time, which is really valuable, or we're paying someone to do. And here in the US, the hourly wages, the salaries are much higher than what it would cost to hire you and your team. I mean, I think of my graphic designer I use all the time. His name is Abdul Sabur. He's in Pakistan. I mean, he does projects for me for like $5 that I would have had to pay 150 to a graphic designer here to do. And he does great work, so why in the world would I not use him? I have no problem with outsourcing those types of work, especially with that type of pricing. So, talking about accountability, if we do delegate, I know a lot of people, and this is a question when it comes to delegation, we're worried about giving up control, right? Because we're just sharing in the workload. We still make all the decisions. We still collaborate and communicate. We still oversee what's happening. It's not like we're relinquishing control to you and hoping it works out. I mean, you guys talk every day. I mean, you can see instantly if you don't like what a virtual assistant is doing, and you can come back and coach them a little bit more or help them or communicate. And so I think it's really important for anybody who's considering a virtual assistant, whether it's with Great Admin or someone else, that you're still responsible. It's still your project. You're not giving up control to do that. But it's really nice having somebody you can offload those things to, and somebody who is your accountability partner in that sense. So let's talk more about that. How do you build your client's trust? Because I know every client goes through it. They start with a small amount, they grow to a larger amount. How do you do that? Talk a little bit about this free trial and whatnot, if you would.
Yeah, sure thing. So we try to do all these little things that add up, to build trust. So
Right.
We understand that we need to do some extra push, than those companies that are in the United States. And one thing that we recommend when we start is to share passwords through one of those tools out there that allows you to share the password without actually sharing the password. You just share a link, and you can turn it on and off. One of those tools, if I may mention them here, is LastPass. That's the one that comes on top of my mind. And other than that, I think it's really helpful for our clients to know that they don't have to pay us anything, if they are not happy with the work. So it's not like we are going to chase them or go to the United States and ask for money. We give them this guarantee, if you don't like what we do, you don't have to pay. And other things that we do to make sure that they trust us is we take it one step at a time. We don't like to rush the process. We understand that building trust takes time. Sometimes weeks, sometimes months. We had a client last week that we just started with, and with the first invoice that we had with him, they gave us his credit card, with all the information on it. As he said, build this credit card. So we had the kind of clients that really trust us. Maybe it's because they met me and they saw that I'm trustworthy, I would say.
Yeah, you're real.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the exception. Most of the clients go through a process that takes a few weeks, to build. And then they start sharing their calendars with us. They start, giving us access to their email accounts so we can do email management. And mostly we start with, in those 4 hours, 4-hour free trial, we start with things like, some data entry or some research, something to get, things going, so they can see the kind of work we can do and then start to build trust from there.
Well, I think a lot of customers go into this process or any vendor relationship and they think it sounds too good to be true, right? There's a lot of skepticism out there. And we see that with our cost reduction. I mean, I talked about how we help clients rewrite their print copy contracts. This is this multi-billion-dollar arena. It's unregulated. And we tell them we average 30 to 60% savings on your existing contracts. And they can't believe it, right? It's just, they say, how can you possibly do that? It sounds too good to be true. Well, we prove it through our references, our testimonials, and through our work. And just like your work, we only get paid once we do the work, right? We get paid out of the savings. So there's no risk to the customer in that case. You're not asking for a big deposit. You're not asking to be paid up front. They're delegating you a task that may take a few minutes or a few hours, but pretty soon most of your clients go from maybe 1 or 2 hours to 5 to 10 to 20, and just trying to give you as much as they can because they realize what a blessing it is in their life, right? I mean, am I summarizing it pretty well there for you?
Absolutely. And I love when they do that. I love that because they show me they trust me and my teammates with, warms my heart, that they trust someone from like 2,000 miles away,
Right.
that we met on the internet 2 weeks ago.
Right. Well, you're not a provider with thousands of clients, right? You do have clients in on all 6 continents, as we said, all over the world, but you're still a small, versatile, flexible company. You're real people, right? And you even say yourself, most of your virtual assistants speak English better than you do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think you speak great. I mean, you speak it way better than I speak Romanian, but if that's a question people have as they meet their virtual assistant, and also many times they'll be working with more than one virtual assistant. Maybe they have 2 or 3. If they start with one and they don't feel like it's a fit, it's easy for them to switch to another one, right? And you're a pretty good read of your customers, Vali. I know you have a pretty high percentage, success rate of matching a virtual assistant with the customer, but occasionally you'll find one that just doesn't work, right? And so you just replace it with another one and you keep doing that until you find the right fit. So
yeah, we love to give this freedom to our clients to actually choose the person they're gonna work with. Maybe they just don't like the person, for any reason. We just assign a different one. I do my due diligence in making sure that I assign the right person according to what I discuss with them during a Zoom meeting. But that's sometimes not enough, which is fine. They have the ultimate choice, decision.
Right. Well, I know you're a debt-free company. You have no investors. You're not beholden to anyone who's making you drive up your prices and so forth. So, how do people get a hold of you, Vali? I know there's going to be people out there who want to reach out to you and test out your service. I mean, they're going to get 8 free hours with your offer.
Yeah.
It's very generous. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. I think the best place to find me is through the website, greatadmin.com. And there are plenty of buttons in there to schedule a meeting it will say 4-hour free trial, but remember it's 8 hours. And the second best place is through LinkedIn, Vali Aldea. And I think these are the best 2 places.
Right. Great Admin, GREATADMIN, or Vali, VALI ALDEA. If you'd like more information, you can text the word certainty to 26786. We can put you together with Vali if you haven't connected with him directly. We hope you'll join us next week. We're having another really great guest, Mr. Adam Torres, who is the founder and CEO of Mission Matters. They're a company who helps people produce their own books. They're a publisher. They have a podcast company. I mean, he's interviewed over 5,000 people. This time we're going to put him on the hot seat and interview him. So really looking forward to that. Until then, Vali, thanks for being here. Really appreciate you, man. I'm so excited to be working with you myself and looking forward to ongoing interaction.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Thank you.
Our pleasure. Till then, we wish you more certainty, all the help that can come from having a virtual assistant like Vali's. Get out there. Certainty is there for the taking. Please don't forget to share this episode with others on your social media, LinkedIn, etc. We look forward to lots more conversations every Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific. Have a great week, my friends. Thanks.
All right. We're all clear. Great show today, Patrick.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Have a fantastic weekend.
Helps to have a great guest. Well done, my friend. I really appreciate you being on. I'm going to put the YouTube video together as well. So get kind of the behind the scenes views when they see, because they get to hear what we talked about during the breaks too, if they watch the YouTube video. So
that's fine. Yeah, I imagine it will be the video somewhere. So I try to, I didn't try to do anything. This is me, I will talk like this, even if it wasn't a radio show, or video or anything like that. If I will have more experience with this, I know that I could have provided more value to the listeners. But since this is my very first show ever in my life, I think it went really well.
You did great, man. I can probably get you on a couple more shows too. I've got some connections that could get your message out, but I think it's just so important what you're doing. You're making such a difference for your customers. And so I'm glad we could share your message today. Hopefully we'll help you get the word out and keep you growing. I mean, you're doing some awesome things, my friend. So keep up the great work.
Yep, I really appreciate that. Absolutely. All right.